Hey guys, welcome back to the Pageant Project. My special guest for today is Peyton Christen, who is Miss Georgia Volunteer. She's a speed painter, performer, advocate, and proud chicken lover, which we talked about before. Peyton is honored to represent the Peach State on the Miss Volunteer America stage this June. As a founder of A4E, Art for Everyone / Employment for All, she champions job accessibility for individuals with special needs, ensuring that every person has the opportunity to thrive. Beyond her platform, Peyton is a bold advocate for young women, encouraging authenticity even when it challenges the status quo. With creativity, compassion, and conviction at the heart of her journey, Peyton is stepping into this role ready to inspire, uplift, and leave a lasting impact. And just for clarity's sake, this is the second time I've spoken to Peyton in 48 hours, because last time we tried, it was difficult. But Peyton, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. My signal is great, and I'm caffeinated, so it's good.
That's all the main things we need. Good to get by in modern day life. We need caffeine and we need good internet. Just to clarify, so last time, because I was asking you, did you want to try your mobile phone? You said you're so far out of the city that your phone doesn't get any signal and it's on SOS. So how far out of like a major city are you?
I'm around 30 minutes from Rome and 20 minutes from Calhoun. So I'm somewhere in between the two major cities. Major is a light term there. But yeah, the signal's just not good. I've got AT&T. I'm sure people know it's not the best, especially in the sticks, which is where I'm at. So
What's it like where you're at, though? I mean, you've referred to it as the sticks before, but I got to imagine you at least enjoy it somewhat. I mean, you've got your chickens and you've got your farm and your thing going on. What's it like out there?
I mean, I love it. It's peaceful. It's quiet. You don't have any nosy neighbors like some people have problems with, I've heard. Never lived in a neighborhood myself, but always close enough to where if you needed somebody, you could get to somebody, even if it was running down the road. So it's good. I mean, the community out here in Armurchie, Georgia, which is even smaller than Rome, you know, people hear about Rome, they hear about Atlanta. I'm about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Atlanta, very close to the Alabama and Tennessee lines. And it's a very close-knit community. Like I told you yesterday as well, I graduated with around 600-700 kids, which is fairly small. That's a lot for actually where I'm at. So that's a pretty big graduating class. But yeah.
Why don't you catch everyone up on what you've been up to today? Because just in case they're wondering why you're sitting in the car, I mean, you're sitting in the car because you went to go and find a signal. But what else have you been up to today? And explain, please, why there's no puppy in the car.
So I have a problem with collecting too many animals, is what we talked about yesterday. But I went out to Madison, Georgia, which is around 3.5 hours from me, south. And we went and did a car show and a fundraiser for the Humane Society of Madison, Georgia. They had a bunch of bigger dogs running around that were up for adoption for the day, and very lovely vintage cars. And we got to give away awards for the best in show and things like that. So a lot of fun. We raised a lot of money for the Humane Society today. And unfortunately, I did not walk away with a puppy, which I told him was very possible today.
You did, all right, just for clarity's sake, the only reason you don't have a puppy in your car right now is because you said all the puppies available were too big.
Too big, yes. I was looking for something a bit smaller. I have a couple of dogs at home that are larger than lab-sized, but I was looking for something a little bit smaller, a little bit of a travel companion for me, but didn't find it today. So yeah, can't fit a big dog in the boot of my car.
You're not looking for a handbag dog, are you?
Maybe not that small, but definitely a lap dog. Definitely a lap dog.
Right. Okay. What was the event today? You said you were raising money for the Humane Society. So is this?
Yes.
I mean, we have the RSPCA here, and we do have a big issue with people buying puppies from pet stores, and parents buying them for Christmas, and then the kids don't look after them, and unfortunately, they give them away to shelters, and sometimes they have to be put down because there's no one to look after them. So, does the Humane Society do similar sort of work over there?
Yes, I would assume that it's fairly similar. We have a lot of problems with just stray dogs, even if it's,
Right.
not families that just don't want to keep hold of their dogs or can't anymore, which is very unfortunate in some events. But we do have a lot of stray dogs on the streets here in Georgia, and they just multiply and divide, and we end up
Right.
with a lot of stray dogs. So.
Right. Well, that's a shame to hear. Why don't you run people through all the animals that you have? I didn't know yesterday that you also had two dogs. We talked briefly about the chickens. Um, how many animals are there, Pete?
I know I'm sneaking animals by you in these
Yeah,
conversations. So I have 5 chickens whom I adore. We got to talk a little bit about them yesterday. We've got, do you remember their names?
I remember Maude.
Yeah.
Like,
I've got Maude, Phyllis, Loretta, and Arlene. And they are just doll babies. And Ethel. Ethel runs around and kind of runs her own gambit out on the farm. And they keep me fed with all of the eggs. And I share my eggs amongst the community, especially with the egg shortage. And with my dad, he loves eggs. He loves scrambled eggs. We have 2 horses. Um,
I'm
I
only
know.
laughing because I didn't hear about this yesterday. And two
Yes.
horses are not, that's not a small, oh yeah, I got a fish over there.
No.
2 horses.
Yes, 2 horses. We had some goats. Unfortunately, they're not with us anymore. They were very old goats. So that is okay. And then we have 2 puppies and 2 cats.
How do you run your day then? Isn't it just like monopolized by, okay, now you got to look after the cat, now you got to look after the dog, now you got to ride the horse? Like, how do you have time to do anything other than looking after the animals the entire day?
I definitely do. You know what? I've got a pretty good sized family, and so we all take turns, and we definitely do our part, and we have a lot of fun doing it. But also, like the chickens, they're just geniuses. I figure they're very self-sufficient. They put themselves up every night and let themselves out. They're just free range. They handle their own business, and they lay where they need to lay, and we haven't lost one yet, knock on wood. We have had some snake interactions, which were not my favorite thing to stick my head into. The way the chicken coop is set up, there's not a human-sized door. It's more of a chicken-sized door. And the door that was supposed to be human-sized door is no longer. So I have to go through the chicken-sized door to get to the eggs. So crawling into that and popping my head up and seeing a snake sitting there looking at me was not my favorite thing a couple of weeks ago, but we handled it.
How okay. Walk people through what went through your mind. I can't I've talked about everything I thought, but I've never heard of a pageant queen going through a chicken-sized door and then coming face to face with a snake. So, number 1, what went through your mind? And number 2, from the outside, what would people have seen at that moment you saw the snake?
Probably nothing. I had disappeared into the little chicken-sized hole completely. If you were outside of the chicken coop, you would have simply heard me go, "Oh no." So
Really?
I
You
popped
were
my head
that
up.
composed?
Well, it wasn't poisonous or venomous. Pardon. It wasn't venomous. I knew that initially. I have learned the difference over the years,
Okay.
but I had a sneaking feeling that something was in there that wasn't supposed to be, just by the way the chickens were acting around my feet.
Ah,
So I came in a little hesitant anyways, but poking my head in, I didn't see anything at first. And then I got up to where the egg boxes are, because you keep them fairly high off the ground so
yeah.
nothing does get to the chickens while they're laying. And right above the egg box, it was like tangled up into the rafters of the chicken house. So it was really just kind of looking at me, watching me do my thing. So yeah, we had to get some shovels and be real careful, and I didn't get bit. So that was good.
Okay, but I mean, is this going to be your talent on stage? You're going to look after a snake, or you're going to fit through a chicken door? I mean, we're looking for unusual talents, and we'll get to yours in a second.
Yeah,
But I mean,
I
these would be
think that
unusual
might be a good
talents.
idea. Yeah. I'm not sure if that would scare the judges away from giving me a talent award, or perhaps welcome one more quickly. That would be cool too.
Well, I mean, you could always walk up to the judging panel with a snake and say, "Give me the award, or I'm going to let this snake loose on you." That
I
might
could do
persuade a
that.
few judges. I'm not
I'm
condoning
sure
this
it would.
behavior. If this happens at Miss Volunteer America, it's not my. Although I have
No,
very weird ideas for
this was
talents.
not influenced by us here at all.
No,
No.
no. I spoke to Miss South Carolina volunteer, and she's a high jumper. And I said, "What you should do for your talents, get on stage, do a high jump, but light the bar on fire, and then jump over." And everyone would watch into. She wasn't having it. I thought it was a great idea, but apparently she did not. You also said yesterday that you were looking at getting two. Was it dairy cows that you wanted to get?
I would love to have 2 dairy cows. That I think would take a lot more attention than what I have to give right now. Like I said, my chickens are fairly self-sufficient. We take care of the dogs. They're fairly easy. But a dairy cow, if I'm not mistaken, has to be milked 2 times a day. And if not, it can be extremely painful for the animal.
Right.
Would not want to put her through anything like that. But if life slows down ever, maybe when I'm elderly, I'd love to have a dairy cow.
Life is not going to slow down for you anytime soon, though.
No, probably not.
I was
Not in my
watching.
plans, at least.
I Googled your name yesterday after we spoke because I thought I want to find out a little bit more about you. And I think I found an interview. I don't know, you were sat on your porch or something. And I think was it the Coosa Valley after you had won Miss Coosa Valley. And by the way, it took me a moment to recognize you because you had different colored hair there. And I was like,
Yes.
And why don't you recount for everyone, because they weren't here yesterday. They didn't hear it. Why don't you recount to everyone how you got into pageantry to begin with? Because it's not the normal story.
No, definitely not. So I started working at Walt Disney World initially. Had always been involved in theater. Some opportunities arose for me to start working there. And coming home, I was really missing the creative outlet that I had while I was working as a character performer at Walt Disney World. And I had seen the flyer for the Coosa Valley Fair around town, and it said that the age limit for Miss Coosa Valley Fair was 24, and I was 23 at the time. So then all of a sudden I'm panicking and feeling like my clock is ticking and time is running out. And if I want to try anything, I have to try it right then and there. So my dear friends, Alyssa and Lindsay, I convinced them to do the pageant with me because you can't do something like that alone, apparently. And competed against, I think it was 25 women or something around those numbers. And then I ended up winning Miss Coosa Valley Fair, having no experience in pageants whatsoever. And it was very funny because I had a couple of girls standing next to me in line talking about their pageant coaches in the audience. And that was way beyond anything I had imagined. And having won that night, I was approached by a couple of people involved in the Miss America organization, specifically Miss Georgia. And they said that I needed to go compete in a local. So I did the very next weekend and won my very next pageant the very next weekend. And that's how I ended up in this.
What was the biggest, I mean, you basically had no knowledge of pageants, which I think where you're from, you have to do, it's pretty hard to actually not really know much about pageants, as opposed to where I'm from. But when you were on the stage, whether it was at Miss Coosa Valley or the first local, what surprised you? Like, did you have any expectations as to what it was going to be like? And then you were on stage and you're like, what's going on here? You want me to walk here, do what?
I think having the experience in theater, I was very familiar with the stage. I was very familiar with stage right, stage left, things like that, and walking patterns. I mean, it was all familiar territory pretty much for me. The only thing that had me terrified was the onstage question, never having done anything like that before. And the young ladies ahead of me had gotten simple, I don't like to call them that, but more simple questions like, what would you do with $1 million? Or if you had one vacation spot you could go to anywhere in the world, where would it be? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? Things like that. And I got, if you could start a nonprofit today, what would you do it for and why? And I did panic on stage. I did. My very first onstage question, it was nothing that had crossed my mind whatsoever, having no experience in pageants. And to be honest, not really much on social media either. I had gotten my first social media platform. I was only allowed to have Instagram when I turned 18. So all very unfamiliar territory, and I never even thought about what I would do with a platform. So I panicked, and then I gave an answer and I walked off, and I thought, oh my gosh, that was terrible. That was horrible. I mean, I couldn't get a straight thought in, but I still walked away with the title and very quickly learned that there was a platform coming my way if I was to win, Miss Flint River, my Miss America title, and really got to think on that question a lot that next week. And that's how I found my platform as well.
Which aspect of pageantry did you enjoy the most?
Initially, it was just the creative outlet for me, getting to perform, the performance of it all. And very quickly, I would say I would say it had to have been at my first Miss America local where I met my still to this day very best friend. It was her first pageant as well, and we both walked away with sister titles, and we have been inseparable ever since. Then I would just say it was the camaraderie. It was the community that I had no idea existed. I was somebody that I was always in gifted classes. I always did theater. I was always a little quirky. I just liked to paint in my room, things like that. I didn't have social media. So I kept to myself a lot, and I was really craving that sense of community and that sense of sistership that I hadn't known. So that's really what swept me under and kept me going along with so many other things.
Let me just zero back to the social media. I think it's fascinating that you didn't get your Instagram until the age of 18. And if I was to be a parent, I would seriously consider doing something similar, even though social media has led me to a lot of amazing opportunities. I think the thought of having it before you're 12 and you have it in school, even during high school, where I really think, and I say this having been a tennis coach, Peyton, at an all-girls high school, I think it's so important you actually learn to interact with people face to face, and that's
Absolutely.
not intimidating. That's a normal thing to do. But how are you thankful now that you weren't allowed the Instagram until you were 18, or was it more of a hassle back then and all your friends had it?
Absolutely. I think that it's also been such a tool in this space as well, specifically in pageantry, because among other things, among the risks and the things that you see that you're never exposed to before, especially as a child, your confidence takes a giant hit when you start going onto social media, because I mean, as we all well know, it's not all real. And so I think not having it until I had a grip on, things on TV aren't real, and the movie stars, that's not really how they live their lives and what have you. I think really having a grip on that and then diving into social media gave me a solid standing for who I am and not comparing myself so much to other individuals on social media.
What was it like when you first created your Instagram account and at the ripe old age of 18, you're trying to figure this thing out? I mean, I say ripe old age as a joke, obviously. But, a lot of kids these days, they have it when they're 10 or 12 or what have you, and then you're coming to it as an adult. Was it exciting? Was it confusing? Was it confronting? You open up your feed and go, why would I want to see that? I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of it was, why is this on here? Why would you post that? Why am I seeing these things? Why are we sharing this? Right. And for some of it, it was just people being vulnerable before I realized that that was something that you can do in a safe space on social media without, of course, exposing yourself in some way that you would regret later. But I had a lot of questions, not so much working all the buttons and things like that. I had a handle on that, but figuring out, what I wanted to post, if I wanted to post, if I wanted to stay on a private page, if, what I felt comfortable sharing, what I didn't, what I wanted my brand to be, I guess you could call it. There was a lot to figure out all at once, and I had heard things and, seen pictures here and there that just from my friends and being on their phone and things like that. So it was a lot at once, but I felt ready for it and I felt old enough for it. So no, I'm still so grateful for my parents for doing that.
Right. I mean, you mentioned you were in a gifted class. If I remember correctly, you are looking to become, is it a PA, a physician's assistant?
I would love that.
Right. Okay. So these are things that, you obviously have a certain level of intelligence and smarts. And I'm just curious, I mean, given everything that you do, because we already talked about, all the animals. We'll get into
Hmm.
your talent in a sec, which is speed painting. You were a
Hmm.
theater kid. You were in the gifted
Hmm.
classes. You went on social
Hmm.
media till you're 18. You want to be basically some sort of equivalent to a doctor. I'm not sure how it works because we
Hmm.
don't have that here in Australia. And I'm just wondering, in the small town that you're from, how did you ever feel like you didn't quite fit in?
All the time. Yeah. And that's something too that I like to bring onto my platform, and I don't expand on it as much as I probably should, to be honest with you. And that's something that I would like to do, during my year as Miss Georgia Volunteer is I tell people all the time that I'm a major dreamer. And I actually published an illustrated coloring book to bring into classrooms called Dreamers Like Me. And it's really just a cute little coloring book with different careers that maybe you haven't thought of before, or just kind of exposing, younger generations to the unlimited opportunities that are truly out there. If you can dream it, you can do it. And that's one of my favorite quotes from Walt Disney World, and Walt Disney. And I think that's so important that we expose children
Yeah.
to. I was allowed to dream unlimited dreams. My parents, I'm so blessed, and I know that. I know people aren't as lucky as I have been, in that aspect. But I really was. I was allowed to dream big, and I was encouraged to. And I think we should be encouraging younger generations to dream bigger, to not limit themselves, regardless of their beginning, regardless of what they're told, regardless of the standards that they're held to, and regardless of their abilities,
Yeah.
especially individuals with special needs. I feel like we need to show them the unlimited opportunities, regardless of the limits that we put on them socially. Um, I've dreamt my whole life and been told that I was so silly. I used to tell people I was going to be a princess one day and no one was going to stop me. And they didn't believe me until it really happened. There really are ways into these things. You just have to figure out how to make it happen. Half silly, half not. Really and truly, I've never fit in because I wasn't supposed to fit in, because I am who I am, and I stuck to my dreams, and I have continued on with them in multiple levels and multiple facets.
Just be fascinated to have an insight into your brain, though, because on one side you've got the physician's assistant, which, for argument's sake, very left brain, very logical.
Hmm.
They're obvious. There's creativity in anything you do. That's something that I've
Absolutely.
discovered later on in life. But that's very sort of left brain, analytical. Then you've got
Analytical,
the
yeah.
speed painting, you've got the theater, and the coloring books, and that's hugely right brained. And most people are more developed on one side than the other. They're either very analytical or they're highly creative. You seem to be very whole brained. So I'm just wondering, how did that happen?
My mom definitely is. This is so funny. I'm terrible at math. Horrible at math. That was my worst subject growing up. I definitely loved science. I loved getting my hands dirty, and I loved English. I loved the whimsy of it all. I always had my nose in a book. Actually, that was the number one way my mother would punish me if something was going wrong,
Taking away your
is she would
books.
take my books away. Yeah, she really would. I promise. You'll have to ask her. So many occasions I would hide books underneath my pillow, and she would catch me reading in the middle of the night, and she would have to take them for me seriously. Oh, but I just loved to live in it. I loved the magic of it all. That was my favorite thing in the whole wide world, was just magic. And she is extremely, what did you say, left brained? Is that the analytical side?
Yeah, left brained is the
Yes,
analytical side.
she's extremely left brained. I mean, everything is very, let's analyze this. She's always been good at math, always been good at chemistry, which was wild to me because I can't wrap my brain all around it. But that's just how she's made, and everything with her is extremely structured, and that's how she likes it. And I think just growing up with her, being a stay-at-home mom, and learning bits and pieces from her, I believe there is that battle of nature and nurture.
Yeah.
And I definitely have picked her brain on some of those things too. So yeah, I attribute that to my mom for sure.
I'm struggling to believe that she took away your books as punishment. I have like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old nephew, and it's almost like if you tell him he has to read a book, you've never seen so much stress and angst in your life. It's like, I mean, kids these days, they don't really know what a book is very often because everything's on a
Mhm.
screen. And then you have this
I know.
thing that's made of cardboard and paper, and they're like, why would I carry this around? I'll just look at it on my phone. But interestingly, when you mentioned that, when I was growing up, I would spend so much time, 10, 11, 12, in the library at school, reading these really thick, like 500, 600 page sci-fi for me. I mean, you mentioned magic. For me, it was sci-fi. It was a bit of an escape into in a completely different world, whether it's dragons or aliens or things like that. And I very distinctly remembering, I shouldn't be able to read this. I shouldn't be reading. It's not normal for a 10, 11, 12-year-old to be reading 500 or 600 page books. Just humor me. What sort of books were your favorite? Was it more fiction? You mentioned magic. Was there any non-fiction, or it didn't matter as long as it's a book you're reading it?
So I distinctly remember this favorite series, and I hope I'm not butchering the name, but it was My Dear America books, and it was historical fiction, which to me was wildly entertaining because my dad loves history. And we were always watching old Western movies and things like that growing up. So it was bits and pieces of that. So I was understanding the history that really did happen. Most of it was fairly accurate, but of course it was a fictional story of a young girl experiencing that was around my age. And so it really put the history in perspective for me. And those, I want to say I read the entire series, if not just a few books short. That was definitely my favorite growing up. And then I dove even deeper into just straight fantasy as I got older. Definitely more of a fantasy buff than anything else now. But historical fantasy was something that fascinated me as a kid.
So when are you penning your bestseller?
I know. I wish I really wish. I'm not even sure if I have the attention span to sit down and write a whole book. I would totally get lost and start a second book in the middle of the first. And I have trouble with that now, reading, starting one book and finding another book at Barnes & Noble and deciding, well, I'll start that too, and tandem reading. Oh, it's awful. Yeah, I'm terrible about that.
I think you have a book. I don't think you have a book in you. I think you have several books in you, though. I think it'd be well worth you sitting down and penning one.
Yes, I hope so. No, I've always said I will live this life to the fullest. I've only got one, and I plan on my story being pretty crazy.
How did you end up as Miss Georgia Volunteer then? I mean, you have so many things going on. I mean, I got diagnosed with ADHD like last year. So, adult ADHD, and it helped explain a lot to me. I'm not medicated or anything like that. So, that's why literally what you said about starting another book in the middle of the first one. I did that. And my writing coach, because I had one, said, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, I can't help it. My brain does these things. But how did you end up making enough time to fit Miss Georgia Volunteer on your plate? Because it doesn't sound like you have an abundance of free time.
Not a lot. Miss Georgia Volunteer keeps me busy. Normally it was, my weekdays stay fairly busy because I also work a full-time job. But now my weekends stay fairly busy as well. I do my best to make time for friends and family among all of that. Like I said, I've got some of my mother's analytical brain, and I love planners. I love them. Something about them, I think they're beautiful. I love writing in them and making it all pretty. So that's definitely how I keep up with everything. But as far as going into Miss Georgia Volunteer, I competed for a third year at Miss Georgia America and didn't walk away with the crown, but my best friend and my roommate that year did. So Audrey, she's amazing. She got, I believe it was second runner up to Miss America. She was in the top 3 or 4. Yeah. So amazing young woman. I truly look up to her. I can't say enough about her. She's fantastic. But walking away without the crown, I really thought I was done. I really thought, okay, 3 years in, we're all good. Last year I competed after Miss Georgia for the first time at Miss Georgia Volunteer, just to try something out. I was trying a couple of things, and I got first runner up, which was very exciting. So I kept that in my back pocket and kept running. And then I competed at Miss Georgia USA a couple of weeks later because I had really had the pageant bug that summer. And I ended up with third runner up at Miss Georgia South USA, which I was also very proud of. And going back into Miss Georgia America, I just really felt like continuing on this path and seeing where I fit in. I loved the America system. I think everyone should go and try and see and do all of the pageant systems. I don't believe that there should be any kind of stigma in not trying one or the other just because one says. I don't believe in any of that. So I was just going to keep trying them until I feel like I finally stepped foot in my home as far as these pageants go. And so I came back to Miss Georgia Volunteer, and I was remembering how it felt last year going in for the first year, and the absolutely unbounded support of this state board and how kind and welcoming they were, and which was, you know, it's a smaller pageant, not nearly as big as Miss Georgia America. So it was a fresh feeling to really get to connect with the board of directors and with all of the volunteers, and getting to really know these people on a personal level. So coming back, I was just excited just to be known and felt loved coming into it. And so I really felt like I was home, whether I walked away with the crown or not. So I ended up walking away with the crown this year, though. So, and I couldn't be more grateful. I do feel like I'm home, and I'm so comfortable where I'm at. So this system is amazing. I highly recommend it to anybody that thinks they want to try it.
Can you just, I'll get you to run me through the key players in the organization that you work with, because I like to give a bit of, gratitude to those people who help make all the magic happen. But can you just walk me through your crowning moment? Because as you came into pageantry, you had no idea what to expect. Had you ever given any thought to, if the crown gets put on my head, how I'm going to react? Were you very poised and very elegant? Did you start bawling? Did you scream? Did you faint? Screaming? Crying?
Probably all of it. I'm a very emotional person. I will admit, I'm the first to admit. Some people, they're like, oh, I'm not really a crier. I'm pretty stoic. I'm very excited, I promise, but you can't tell. No, not me. It's all over my face at all times. I have a lot of trouble hiding my emotions. I didn't think it was me. So we had quite a few of us competing, but we were all standing in a row. And the way that they did it, they called the first runner up.
Yeah.
And so the rest of us are all just standing there in a line instead of the final two standing together. And standing next to such intelligent and talented women, you really don't know if it's you. You're holding on to a prayer, to be honest. So, and I was holding on to Brooke, and she was my prayer at that moment, because I thought, oh, if they call my name, I'm going down. Just out of pure joy. And so they called the first runner up, and I'm holding on to my friend Brooke beside me. And I said, I hope you're okay with this. I know I've really got a hold of you right now. She just laughed it off. But I was on the very end. I was actually almost directly behind the podium where Lauren Salambini was standing and emceeing. I couldn't even really see my parents from there, and they were in the front of the audience. So I was kind of tucked away in the corner. And they called the first runner up, and she, Taylor, she was actually first runner up to Miss Georgia America a couple of years ago as well. Right. So having her being called first runner up, then everything blows out the window in my head. I had no idea who it was going to be. Because her talent is unmatched. She's amazing. And they said Miss Rome. And I just remember not really processing it all of the way. I know I let go of Brooke, and I kind of just turned away and faced the curtains. And Lauren said she thought I was going to run off stage, but it was just a moment of pure shock. And then I went down, and Brooke had to help me up, and I walked forward onto the stage, and then my knees gave out again. And so then I'm just slapping my legs, trying to get them to go, and sobbing uncontrollably. It's not cute. Really, if you see the video, it's not pretty. Nothing about it is graceful or poised like we talked about. Nothing about it is. It was just the face of pure joy and shock, and a journey of perseverance coming to sort of a peak. A lot of emotions there, and I couldn't stop shaking either. Not really sure where that came from. I'm sure it's the adrenaline. And in one part, I'm sobbing, and I'm saying thank you to all of the, first off, fantastic panel of judges. We had the best panel of judges. They were the sweetest people ever. Still friends with them now. And I saw my dad. And anytime I see my dad, I throw him a little "I love you." And people always think I'm doing like a rock on because I'll
Yeah.
finish my talents and I'll throw up a little "I love you" to my dad, but people think I'm
Oh,
like
right.
throwing a rock on. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's actually "I love you" to my dad. Is
Oh,
he's in the
yeah.
crowd somewhere. But so I was doing that and my hand was shaking like this and I'm just sobbing. Oh, it's so unattractive, Adrian, I have to tell you. But and then I couldn't get my bearings after that. We were whisked away for pictures and everyone wanted to talk to me and everything was scrambled in my brain. So I'm not really sure what I said to anybody after that point. Yeah.
So has the feeling in Brooke's arm come back yet?
I hope so. I should probably check on her.
Poor girl. You sound like you were just choking off all this. You're lucky you didn't rip her arm off. That's about the most disjointed and traumatizing winning moment I've ever heard, particularly when you found out that you turned the wrong way and looked like you're a theater kid. I thought you said, your stage right and your stage left.
Yeah, apparently all things went to the window in the moment I heard my name, but that's just me.
When I got to imagine you had this moment, the moment when you realized what you'd done, what you achieved, and you probably had a moment to yourself to just go, hang on, what have I done or what did I just do? And then you go, can't believe I did it. You give thanks, whatever you do, whatever you believe. But when did you have that moment and what was that like?
I think it was when everyone had cleared out. We had finished pictures. My mom came to the back to help me pack up my bag and get all of the painting things together because those were all over the place, drying in the sink and things. And I just kind of looked at her and I looked in the mirror and I looked at her again and I was like, are you serious? You mean I get to go onto a national stage? That was good enough? I'm good enough? I'm able to? I'm capable? And so I think it was just all of those doubts that you have about yourself in competing. Like I said, it's a lot of comparison. It gets really tough. And even though I feel like I was prepared very well from a young age for stuff like this, it just comes to a peak and you come crashing down at times.
Yeah.
But it was a moment of realization of you are worthy, but you were always worthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was just seeing my mom's face and the mirror was all it took.
What I love how you worded that. First off, let me ask, the first time you did an appearance and, given how big pageantry is in America and the South, I got to imagine at one point you've had a little girl come up to you, want a photo or something like that. And, you wear the sash, you wear the crown. What was that moment like when you realized, hang on, you're now in the position of being the role model? You got these, you talk about princesses, Disney princesses. You're now the literal princess. What was that moment like?
I think we spoke about this briefly yesterday, but just for context, working with children, specifically as a character performer in any aspect, but especially at Walt Disney World, you are held to this standard, right? And you're trained for this, and it takes weeks, and you do voice training just to get it just right, and posing training and what have you, just to make sure you emulate this character, this role model that everybody always looks up to and has for hundreds of years right now. And you're just trying to emulate what they're really giving off to these kids through the TV screen, right? You're trying to give the same kind of feeling in person, which is it's not as easy as it sounds, if it sounds easy at all. I mean, it was a daunting task for me, especially having two of the most well-known princesses in my repertoire, Cinderella and Elsa. Elsa especially is held to the standard that is really above anybody else right now. That is what the kids are focused on. So I think it was autopilot being trained in that way, but it was different in the way that I was still able to be myself.
Yeah.
And it almost brings you to tears in those moments, talking to the little girls coming up, wanting to wear your sash or put your crown on or touch it, or just ask you where you got that and where she can find one because she wants one too.
The princess store.
Yes, in those moments, you have to remind yourself, or I've had to remind myself, that I don't have to emulate this role model that we all know and love. I can simply step into this role and be the role model that these kids need. And then you think back to the kind of role model you needed as a child, and it all kind of hits you at once. And it's very emotional, especially for me. Like I told you, I wear everything on my sleeve. Especially later, you just think, what else could I have given, right? What else did I need in that moment, in her position, in his position? And so even then, it's a very daunting task. But wow, what magic we're able to create as role models in any aspect, not just with a crown and sash on you, but as a doctor, as a lawyer, as anything that anybody could possibly have a goal to look up to.
Yeah.
What magic we're able to create for the younger generations. It's absolutely astounding.
It's one of the reasons I get quite confused when people say they don't want to work with kids or they hate working with kids, because I worked as a tennis coach for going on like 10 years, and I loved working with the kids. I loved the realness, the authenticity. There's no filter, and they really look up to you. Even if you feel like you don't deserve it, they begin to emulate you. They want to be around you. When you're not there, they ask, oh, where's so-and-so? And I know you spoke a little bit about special needs. I worked with a couple of kids who had Down syndrome, and they were regulars in my, I still remember, it's a Saturday morning class. And they were the most beautiful kids you ever work with. They process things a bit differently. But I never had any issues working with them. Other people are like, oh, don't want to work with them. They're not going to ever win Wimbledon. Or, it's like, that's not the point. The point to me is you get to interact with these people as human beings. And you get to watch the evolution. If you get to work with them for 10 years, they start off as little kids, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. You get to go watch them become preteens, teens, and then young adults. And then I'm old enough now that you have some of them coming up to you and they're like 20 years old. Like, oh, you used to be my tennis coach. Oh my God, how long have I been doing this? But for you, because when you speak about working with kids, I get the sense for you it's the same. It's like, in a way, you take it not seriously, although I think you do take it seriously. But I think you take seriously the impact that you're able to make. Specifically when you mentioned the Disney character, I don't think that's easy at all, because it's like they say, don't ever meet your role models. This is a fictional role model who could quite literally be perfect. Even the flaws are scripted in to make her seem more perfect when she overcomes them. So what is it like for you working with kids? Some of your favorite words have been dreams, magic. This is not like a normal vocabulary. So these words are obviously important to you. How much do you enjoy working with the kids and seeing their eyes light up?
It's my purpose in life. I know that it is. And I'm going to not get emotional. I told you. It is my purpose in life. I don't know what for, whether I'm blessed enough to become a physician's associate, whether that's my path. I don't know. I just walk on the path that I'm led to, or whether I'm just supposed to be a mom, or whether I'm just supposed to be this cool old lady with a bunch of animals that these kids come to her house and learn different things from me. Whether, I don't know what facet I'm supposed to work in with children, but I know that they're not only our future, but they're my future, and they're why I'm here.
And you said just a mom, and I know what you mean by that, but I often say that parenthood for me is the most difficult, most important, and also simultaneously, unfortunately, the most underpaid position in the world. Because, I mean, you've spoken about your dad and your mom on multiple occasions, and I can see how important they are to your development. And this was another thing as a tennis coach. You begin wondering why some kids are so well adjusted and why some, maybe aren't. And it was quite jarring to me. It's like you can see these parents who you think are doing everything they can, bending over backwards, and yet their child still can be a bit troublesome and whatnot. And then you meet these amazing young children who are so self-aware, and you just wonder, how did you end up like that? Just curious, what were you like to work with as a child? If someone was teaching you or coaching you, were you? No, why is that shocked look on your face?
Well, I can only imagine, truly. Like I said, I was a little odd. I remember going to the Renaissance Fair. Do they have those in Australia?
I've only seen them in American sitcoms as jokes. You mean where people dress up
No.
as knights and fair maidens and things like
Yes.
that? Oh, that'd be so
Yes.
cool.
Yes. Oh, and it's so you should just come and take a trip just to go to a Renaissance Fair, especially the Georgia Renaissance Fair. I'm biased, but I grew up going. Um, no, I mean, I did. I thought fairies were real. I mean, they were real. They are real. Let me just give it up. Okay. Um, it was also real to me and so vivid because that side of my brain was wild. I mean, just cracked open and spilling all over the floor, really and truly. And I've always been like that. That has always led me through my life is my creativity, my ideas, the things that I don't believe are impossible because nothing's impossible, right?
Yeah.
I think that in Tim Burton's version of Alice in Wonderland, she said that she dreamed up 6 impossible things before breakfast. That
Yeah.
is the life that I lived, really and truly. I was a real life Alice in Wonderland. So I'm sure I was a little wild. I mean, I had to have been. I never got in trouble. I do know that. I have a fear of getting in trouble. I have a fear of doing something wrong. I think that's a
Yeah.
little bit of my OCD that I was recently diagnosed with. A little obsessive compulsive when it comes to making sure everything's perfect, but also nothing has to be, right? So it's this war within my mind that I fight with daily. No, but I was a well-behaved child, very well-behaved. My parents made sure of it. But I know the things that came out of my mouth, I'm sure were otherworldly, just as far as the creativity aspect of it all.
I think I would have loved working with you because I think you're one of those people who is very well behaved, but you can almost see like it's a literal whirlwind going on in the brain. Like she's never thinking of the same thing for longer than 10 seconds in a row. We haven't gotten to your talent yet, and so let's get on to that. So,
Okay.
I mean, you know which video we're about to show because you sent it to me. Do you want to just give context before I bring it up on stage, what it is they're about to see for those who are watching?
Yes. Okay, so this video in particular is from prelim night at Miss Georgia Volunteer this year. And you may see me moving about and putting paint everywhere as one does when they're speed painting, but just know that I am moving faster than I've ever had to move before because I knew walking onto stage that something was amiss. I knew that my easel had actually locked on to my canvas rather than letting it sit there freely because I actually do everything upside down and I had to pull it off and spin it upside down for it to be the proper way and for everyone to really see the image, but it was locked on. And so I knew I had to give myself time to free up the canvas that was on this easel. And it's a very heavy easel, so there was no way I was just going to flip it, the whole thing upside down. So you will see that too.
This all happened within 90 seconds?
It did.
Let's have a look. You can walk people through it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is not the beginning. Why don't we start from the beginning, Adrian? Good job. All right, Here we go.
So I'm just waiting on the cue for the music. It's actually My Way by Frank Sinatra. If you've never heard that song, you definitely should listen to it. It's a classic. Right here, all that's going through my mind is go, 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 go. I know all of the shapes. I know all of the patterns that I have to go through to create the final image. I'm going through the motions as quickly as I can without making a mess because I am actually working with paint. It's wall paint, so it's slightly thicker. It's not going to run. But you still can make a mess very easily with paint regardless. It could go all over the front of my outfit or all over the tarp on the floor or all over the canvas where it's not supposed to. And obviously in speed painting, it's very difficult to play with the audience. So a lot of the entertainment is just the fact that you can't tell what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And also the music. I like to think I have good taste in music. So hopefully that is also entertaining the crowd. And at this point, I knew I was going to have enough time to pull it off the easel. So I'm going back and doing some fine detailing to make sure that the image was to my standards. And eventually
and now it's stuck.
Attempting to rip it off of the easel. I did get it free. I know you can't hear it, but the music has not stopped yet. And as I sit it down and throw my arms up, the music has then stopped, and I have beat the clock, essentially.
How, and I was talking to you about this yesterday. How does it go from I need a talent to this part? I mean, your brain is, I don't know, overwhelming is the right word to put it.
Probably.
But
Yeah.
to all the different bases you've been. So just help me connect the dots. I mean, so how does it go from I need a talent to speed painting something upside down?
So actually, this was not the original talent that I started with in the Miss America system. I started singing because I only had a week to prepare a talent. That is my argument there. So I had to stick with what I knew, and doing musical theater, I knew I could hold a tune. So I sang until I decided that was no longer the path that I needed to be on. And I looked at my mom and I said, I think I could probably paint pretty fast. If enough pressure applied, I think I could probably get it done fairly quickly. She argued that it was not possible, but again, 6 impossible things before breakfast, that was not stopping me. And I practiced for a few weeks before my next local competition, my second year around. And I ended up speed painting actually Eminem, the rapper Eminem, and to a remix of one of his songs, and walked away with third at that pageant. And I kept going ever since and kept getting faster.
How do you go from I can't paint to save my life? So I'm just curious. So when you've picked your subject and you have some idea of how you want the finished product to look like, how do you go from that to actually painting it though? Because you got such a short time. I'm imagining you have to work out what goes where, but probably also in what order. And I got to imagine there's quite a lot of trial and error there, because you can't really work it out for real until you're actually doing it. So how long does it take to go from this is what I want to do to, okay, in the 90 seconds, this is the strokes I'm going to do and this is the order I'm going to do them in?
Initially, the process was all over the place. I had no idea how to start. I didn't know how people were getting speed paintings done in enough time. And my first competition with a speed painting, I didn't think it was going to be possible. But with some encouragement from some friends, it was possible with some adrenaline added in on stage. But I found a speed painting coach, and she is, I believe, the only speed painting coach in the United States. Her name's Annika Wooten. She was a former Miss Kansas, and that is what she does full time now. Is she travels across the country speed painting for various sports events and fundraisers and amazing things like that. She's absolutely fantastic. And she told me that I was going about it all wrong. I had to start with a hero image, is what she calls it. I had to start with my own sketch of whatever I was trying to get done and draw it out. And once it was to my standards, turn it upside down and only look at it upside down for as long as I can stand it. I mean, I really just plastered it on my bedroom wall, and I would fall asleep looking at it at night. And then I would start to sketch it beside the hero image that I would have. I would try to sketch it, freehand it. And then once I eventually got the shapes and the patterns and the speed down, I was able to just practice it on canvas without looking at anything. And eventually I get it under 90 seconds and it turns into this.
The image really was just haunting your every waking moment then.
In the best way. I prefer it that way. I love art that way.
Absolutely. Is it just my imagination, or is this the messiest talent possible? I mean, I'm just thinking about the poor onstage people. Do they dread you coming on stage?
I'm sure that they do. And something else about me is something is always going to happen. Positive, negative, I don't know, but nothing ever goes exactly to plan for me, as much as I would adore that to happen. So in this one, it was just the easel getting stuck, but actually on finals night, I was painting and I guess I was moving so quickly that I just let go of my brush and it went flying across the stage. Luckily, the tarp that you see there is way larger than it looks in that video. I got
Yeah.
the biggest tarp I could get a hold of because girls have extremely expensive dresses they're walking on a stage with, and
Yeah.
God forbid I got anything
Yeah.
on anybody's dress. I would hate for that to happen. So the
Yeah.
tarp is as large as possible. They go in and wipe everything down afterwards and look for any splatters that I may have made. But
Right.
it possibly could be the messiest. I do know some science experiments that might be a little messier than mine, but definitely up there.
You said you let go of the brush, so you need to finish
I
that
did.
story. What happened? Did you run to get it back? Did you have another one handy? Did it hit someone in the face? Like, what happened?
The funny thing is, I've got two brushes in the paint cup that's in my hand that I'm balancing with, while also holding onto the canvas, and it never crossed my mind to grab the other brush, not even once. So I threw it across the stage and went, "Oh no, I have to go get that." So I ran over and picked up the brush that was now on the floor and no longer had as much paint on it, and didn't realize that I had had a second brush in my hand the entire time until I had already put it back in the cup with the paint and the extra brush. But I finished. I finished on time. It was great. The image was good.
You sound like you have more than enough time to. You sound like you could be doing something else. Like you throw a brush, you could juggle a paintbrush in the middle of it because you sound like you have all the time in the world. You don't
I'm
sound very
telling
pressed.
you. I mean, really and truly, and like I said, that first time that I ever practiced speed painting, the day of the competition, hours before competition, I could not get the image done in 90 seconds. And I told my
Wow.
mom,
Okay.
this is going to be really embarrassing. I'm not going to be able to do it, but I'm still going to go up on stage. I'm not backing out. I'm going to do my best. And it took one of my best friends, Abby Calloway, telling me that I was going to go out there regardless, and she was going to be screaming at me from the wings, in which she did. And she was screaming at me to dance the whole time that I was doing that. And I attribute being able to finish that very first speed painting to her and a lot of adrenaline. So it definitely helps with the speed. I don't always know where I'm at timing wise. I do my best to keep track on the shapes along with the same sound in the song as the shape that I'm making, but it doesn't always track.
Yeah. You work best under pressure then.
I do. I guess I really do. And that's okay with me.
I mean, you mentioned that you painted the rapper Eminem, and I don't think in many people's brains, Eminem and Frank Sinatra go in the same sentence. How did that happen?
Uh,
How do you pick like a
my
song and
mom's
an
going to be
artist?
so embarrassed. My mom's going to be so embarrassed. So, specifically, one song of Eminem's that is non-explicit was the song that I grew up listening to on my way to soccer games. It was like one of my mom's favorite hype songs and my dad's favorite hype songs, and they would listen to it when they went to the gym. And so they would play it for us, and it was off the 8 Mile track. And it was my ultimate hype song. So if I was going to do something that people don't think of typically
Yeah,
as a pageant talent, I
yeah.
just wanted to go ahead and blow it all out of the box and do something completely not pageanty at all.
Wow. Okay. Um, I'm going to let you go in a sec. We're going to move towards the final 10 because I've had you sat in the car parking lot and I don't know how many people are walking past wondering, what is that girl doing in her car talking to herself for so long? She's really lost it. They might call the police on you. I was going to say, I'm going to give you a chance to just give thanks and a shout out to whoever you want to for supporting you along your journey, but I neglected to give you a chance to shout out the Miss Georgia Volunteer Board. So if you want to go through who the key players are and then any other thanks or shout outs you want to give, I'm assuming your parents will be in there somewhere.
Yes, of course. My parents and my siblings, my grandparents, my Aunt Delane, my Uncle Frank. I mean, really, everybody's been right there next to me throughout this whole journey. I could not be more blessed, and I do not take it for granted either. So I mean, 1,000 thanks to them. I can never say thank you enough for everything that they've prepared me for. As far as the Miss Georgia Volunteer Board, woo. I mean, really, like, what a team to be championed by. I'm so excited to be on this journey with them and so excited to share with the state how fantastic of a board they are and what opportunities they're creating with me and for me and alongside me. I mean, it's really collaborative effort. Russell, Darrett, Kelly especially, she's the Miss Director with us, and Russell and Darrett are really the head of it all, the masterminds behind everything, and every single volunteer that goes along with that. Emily, Claire, my teen, Charlotte, my Azalea teen. She actually was riding with me. We live in the same town, so she's kind of my car buddy throughout this whole thing. They're the absolute best. As far as who's prepared me for being here, there are so many. Tara Shipoff, Bill Alverson, Annika Wooten, Lou Sierra for teaching me how to walk properly. Thank you for that. I needed that. But and so many more. You know who you are. I would not be where I am without all of you and all of your support and help. So thank you endlessly. Thank you.
Just want to make sure, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, because I think something just dropped out. So there's the sound changed or something. So I'm going to take that as a sign that we should move towards the end. But as long as you can still hear me, it's all good. All right, so let's go through these final 10, and then I'll let you go on your merry way. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Magic. Has to be.
What is your least favorite word?
Impossible.
In life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
That's a good one. Adventure. Things to do.
What turns you off?
A negative outlook on possibilities.
What sound or noise do you love?
Laughter.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Knocking on doors. I can't stand it.
So what do you want them to do instead?
Yell or something. I don't like knocking. Sorry.
So if someone comes to your door, you don't want them to knock. You want them to stand outside going, "Hey, open the door."
Hopefully I'll hear you. I can't stand knocking.
I'm almost afraid to ask, is there a particular reason why?
No, I think I just love scary movies too much, and there's always knocking in scary movies.
That's a very, very polite serial killer. If they're knocking on the door, "Excuse me, I'm here to murder you, miss. Let me in."
Don't let me know, just scream.
I don't know why I laughed so hard at that one. It was, and you're not actually the first person to tell me that. There was also someone interviewed someone in Taiwan who hates people knocking on her door. And I asked her the same question. Like, if you don't want them to knock on the door, how are they supposed to, if it's your DoorDash or whatever, how are they supposed to let you know it's there? And she's like, "I don't know, but I don't want them to knock." Like, okay.
I'm the same way. Whoever that is, I feel you, sister. I'm right there with you.
All right. So if someone's outside yelling in front of your house, they're not a crazy person. They're just trying to get you to open. Okay. Good. Important point of clarification there. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Ooh, to fly. Because how cool. I used to have dreams that I could jump off the top of trees and fly all the time. Like I said, I'm everywhere, but to fly.
Yeah, I've had very vivid literal dreams about flying as well, and then I'm always disappointed when I wake up. It's like, oh, I can't actually do it. It's the worst feeling when you wake up.
And you want to just jump and push off the ground and fly, and it doesn't work.
I mean, I wouldn't suggest trying it, but yeah, I'm fairly certain when I wake up, like, oh, that was just a dream. Number 8, what job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Somebody else's?
Anything. If you could try any job in the world, what would you like to attempt?
If I could try any job in the world, I think I would want to be somebody that ran an ice cream shop. But I would have to have a jacket on the whole time. I get so cold. But I would love to give people ice cream. That would be great.
When you watch this interview back, because I'm sure you will, the reason I'm laughing is because you had such a serious look on your face when you said ice cream shop. It looked like you were really giving this a lot of thoughts, like ice cream shop. It's like pageant mode, ice cream shop. Thank you for asking. Well, I'd like to run an ice cream shop. Like, okay.
How fun. Yeah, no, that would be fun.
Do you know how you can tell if someone has worked in an ice cream shop?
How?
One forearm is bigger than the other because of the twisting that's required. So I have the same thing because as a tennis player, you need a lot of grip strength in one hand. So my right forearm is noticeably bigger than my left. And anyone who works in an ice cream shop, especially when it's really cold, doing that, it's a lot of twisting and grip strength. So you can tell. And sometimes girls go, I wanted to stop working at the ice cream shop because I noticed my forearm was getting bigger. So that's how
I
you can
had
tell.
no idea. I guess that would be similar for a construction worker too, right? I guess
Yeah,
like hand.
anyone with twisting. I mean, even as a painter, there's a lot of wrist action, and so you end up. There's a lot of people now who can't open jars or open doors because they
Hmm.
don't have grip strength anymore because everything is swipe left, swipe right. So they
Right.
can't actually, like, if you grab a tennis ball and you just try to crush it, a lot of people can't do that anymore. So
Huh.
fun fact for you. There you go. If
I'm
you
gonna
ever
work on
see
it.
anyone with a giant, forearm, they're either a tennis coach or an ice cream shop worker. Anyway, moving on. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
I can't say that. I
Now I'm curious.
know. I was thinking about different healthcare, and I thought gastrology, urology. No, I wouldn't want to do any of that. Probably gastrology, I'll say.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You're gonna make me cry. Well done.
Well, we got there in the end.
Oh no, sorry.
No, it was funny because my latest trip over to America was a very odd one from a spiritual or religious point of view. I almost didn't get to make it. Like there was some screw up with the the ticketing, and so I
Yeah.
almost didn't make my first flight in Sydney. And I remember when I got to, so actually you mentioned that you competed in Miss Georgia South, and my friend Savannah Miles was Miss Georgia South. She then became Miss Georgia USA, and I was over there. I was watching her competing. Bear in mind the other side of the world, and she had invited me to the after party, and I happened, because of driving on the other side of the road from what we do here, drove the car into the curb. Not something I normally do, but hard enough to rip the tire off. So here I am, got a complete flat in a rental, and I'm having to change a tire on the car, dressed in my tux because I'm going to an after party for Savannah, and it's raining. And the weirdest thing happened. This homeless person stopped to help me, and she happened to be a mechanic, and she was so excited telling me about her fiance, and over the weekend she'd found like $1.30 in change. Then she wasn't able to do it because we were on a hill. She flagged down a police officer who then told me to pull up to the parking lot, and he changed the tire for me. And my entire US trip was, here's a huge problem. Like, here's a door that God has closed, but now here's a window. And it's like, are you getting the lesson yet? Are you getting the lesson yet? It's like, everything happens for a reason, as you said. And so now I pretty firmly believe, similarly to yourself, I think there
Mm.
really isn't such a thing as a consequence. And when you begin to see the plan, like you go, hang on, how did I end up here? Every now and then, right? There's just this moment you catch yourself going, how did I end up here?
Mm.
Like, because I didn't plan it. Like, I'm sure it's similar to yourself. I didn't plan, from university to be a pageant interviewer. It
Right.
wasn't Bachelor of Pageant Interviewing. That wasn't an available course. So, yeah, no, I'm not surprised to hear you get emotional about that one,
Yeah.
because I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Well, Peyton, final question. How
Okay.
many people have stopped to stare at you whilst you've been doing this interview?
I think I saw two cars drive by, and this is a empty parking lot. So I'm not sure if they're watching to figure out what I'm doing, or maybe they're doing something similar, and that's fine too.
Okay, right. Well, this has been amazing. I'm so glad we got to do this. I'm so glad I actually got to hear and see you this time. That does help for an interview, if you're wondering. But it's been an amazing joy getting to speak to you, seeing the vivacity with which you live your crazy life, and best of luck with everything leading up to next year.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was wonderful to talk to you twice. I'm very grateful for that. And I hope to talk to you a third time sometime very soon.
I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience, but thanks to everyone for watching or listening, and we will speak to you next time.